Hey everybody, it's Stephen Schultz with Schultz Myers Law Firm in St. Louis. I want to talk to you today about how you can obtain a settlement for more than the policy limits of insurance that the person has who hit you in an auto accident. So let's break that down. Let's talk about insurance generally first. In Missouri, you have to carry at least $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident in auto insurance liability coverage if you own a car. That's required in Missouri. Let's say you're involved in a rear-end crash. Somebody hits you from behind and they're insured with State Farm, as an example. Let's say that person who hit you had a 25-50 policy, $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident. And it was only you in the car who was hit. So let's say you're hurt. You go to the ER, you get some follow-up treatment, you get an MRI scan if it involves a spine injury. Let's say you get physical therapy over 8 weeks. Let's say you end up getting an epidural spine injection to try to calm down the pain in your spine. And after it's all said and done, you have medical bills of $40,000, $50,000. Well, what happens if you have $40,000 to $50,000 in medical expenses and the person who hits you only has $25,000 in coverage to potentially compensate you? Well, if you have underinsured coverage on your own policy, that's another way you can get some money. But we're going to assume that you don't have that because it's not required in Missouri, although we highly recommend it. But let's say you do not have that form of coverage. So all you have is this person who hits you who has minimum Missouri coverage, and you have a lot more medical bills than what they have. Well, that's a predicament we run up against quite often in this firm, and it's because we work on very serious cases with significant injuries. We work on death cases, really horrible stuff. And in most situations, there's not enough insurance to fully compensate that plaintiff, that client of ours. So over the course of the years that we've been doing this and the thousands of cases we've handled, we've become very good at increasing value and potentially getting a settlement in excess of the amount of insurance that another person has. So in that situation, the driver who had State Farm who hit you, if they only have $25.50 in coverage, all that State Farm's contractually obligated to pay, if we prove our case, is just $25,000. Now, how do we get more than that? Well, that's a video that would last a couple hours, but I'm going to shorten it up really short. There's a couple ways. First of all, you can always take your case to a jury trial, and as lawyers, we can try to seek a verdict that's in excess of the policy limits of the other person's insurance. So in this situation, we would want to get a verdict at trial in excess of $25,000. And in that situation, sometimes the insurance company will end up paying the difference in the verdict amount, or we can pursue what's called a bad faith claim on behalf of the person who hit you. It's complicated, but the bottom line is, in some situations, if we get a verdict in excess of the policy limits of the person who hit you, we can get that actual verdict amount paid and covered. Another way is we always give insurance companies the opportunity to do the right thing. We always give insurance companies the ability to settle a case when we believe it's time to settle the case. We'll give them an offer of settlement, and if the insurance company settles the case, it's over. But in some situations, the insurance companies do the wrong thing. It happens a lot. That's why we do what we do. It's because insurance companies hold on to their money, and they typically will not pay what's fair without us involved. And so in a situation where we've offered to settle a case with an insurance company and they've failed to accept that offer, we can then potentially get more than the offer we even originally made. And that's because insurance companies, as it gets closer to trial, can sometimes realize that they made a mistake. And they'll come back to us and they'll say, can we please pay you what you offered to settle the case for? In which we don't do that anymore. That opportunity to settle the case that we gave them is gone. And so in that situation, we typically will settle a case if the insurance company is going to pay more money than the policy limits. And so that's one way. Another way, there's several different ways we can make that happen. It's got to be a pretty unique situation factually. There certainly has to be injuries that support an amount in excess of the policy limits of the person who hits you. But we've become very good at that. We're known for that. Attorneys around the state and in other states send us those cases so we can do that for them. And in fact, it kind of all stems back to one of the first really big cases we worked on that ended up going that route, which is, without getting into the facts too much, involved a death, a young boy, and a school bus. And we ended up, that case, there was $2.5 million in liability insurance available. They didn't want to pay that when we offered to settle it for that amount. So we took the case to trial. We got a verdict in excess of $11 million at trial. And we ended up collecting several years later. After they appealed that, we ended up collecting an amount well in excess of $11 million. So my point is it can be done. You know, we work on very large cases here, large and small, but a lot of the cases we work on have significant injuries. And in those situations, we have to really do our best to try to get our client even more than the policy limits available. Because let's face it, you know, about 85% of Missouri residents, Missouri motorists, have minimum coverage. And if you're driving around in an SUV with minimum coverage, you can really do some damage. And so we really have to do our jobs here as lawyers and make sure that we get the maximum amount we can for our clients. And that's just one way we do it, with settlements in excess of policy limits. Okay? Complex area of law. We've done videos on this in the past. It's just another one to add. And, you know, certainly these are very factually unique situations. We have to really take a close look at them. So if you have a question, you have a case that you'd like us to look at, the number is easy to remember. As you know, it's 314, all fours after that. And again, to talk to us and to consult with us is always going to be free. Okay? So if you need us, call us. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.